Jason, we were going to start to kind of go through the position units, offense and defense. We've got to be about 6 weeks away. So hopefully we can time this out and get everybody set for fall camp. And why not start at the most important position, quarterback?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's always the position that everybody cares the most about. And then certainly at Oklahoma with all the changes that Oklahoma's had from last year to this year. And I think going in, or maybe going into the spring and even coming out of the spring, Mark, it was still probably the position of most concern, I would say, from a depth perspective. So a lot of people are very comfortable with Dillon Gabriel, and I think there's a lot of comfort coming in with what he's done at UCF. A lot of comfort coming in with his knowledge of the offense and his work with Jeff Lebby in the past. But I think a lot of people come from some of the things I heard. A lot of people were pleasantly surprised, a little bit more accurate than maybe the thought was coming in. I think he's got a little bit more zip on the ball than a lot of people thought coming in, and so I think those are certainly those are pleasant surprises. So he's the unquestioned number one. Lebby's already named him the starter, so there's no real quarterback controversy or quarterback competition, so to speak. And I think you're seeing him do a lot of the things that you would expect out of the quarterback position in the offseason. Is leading that room and being a leader on the offensive side of the ball, and kind of the weight room has organized at least one that I've seen. Basically, I guess you would call it a retreat or a little bit of a camp for the offensive side of the ball that he organized, and did a lot of stuff, kind of team building things, being a leader type thing. So I think that's something that you love to see from a leadership perspective. So I think obviously he's the guy, but I think the one thing that's been really good for Oklahoma is getting a couple of guys um, into this program at the quarterback position that would help should there be an injury, should there be anything going on. And honestly, Mark, if nothing else, just to help from a practice perspective. So Oklahoma got two transfers in. Davis Bevel, who is the transfer from Pitt, sat behind Kenny Pickett for a few years. Was still, I think, probably sitting behind Keaton Slovis a little bit this year in the spring. Elected to make that change, coming over to Oklahoma. So I think he's probably, Mark, your leader in the clubhouse for the backup position, for no other reason other than he's the only quarterback on campus that has any kind of experience at the college level. Not extended experience, but he does have a bit of experience being that number 3 guy last year, and then ended up, because of some injuries and some holdouts there in the bowl game, got an opportunity to play and played fairly well. Was pretty accurate. Had the really bad interception, as we talked a few weeks ago, or maybe whenever that was when he committed to Oklahoma, but still, by and large, was fairly effective in that game. So I think he's probably, like I said, he's probably the guy. Really tall, 6'5", 6'6" kid. Has the prototypical figures that you would look for in a quarterback. And then I think, and then the next three are very interesting to see what that what that battle looks like in the pecking order of where that goes. Oklahoma also got a commitment from junior college quarterback General Booty, who is the relation to John David Booty, has got some family ties that have played a lot of ball both at the professional and the college level. I think the thing that's interesting about him, Mark, is we talked a little bit about this, about the lack of interest nationally in him, and Venables and team taking a chance on him, and I think it's probably one of those things that I heard that was interesting. If he ends up being a kid that can play quarterback at the University of Oklahoma, is probably one of the biggest misses from a recruiting perspective and evaluation perspective of all time. If not, then then he's a guy that can give Oklahoma some depth and some guys available there should something happen. So I think Liberty, and there's a couple of other teams, but nothing from a Power Five perspective, nothing. So I think it'll be interesting to see how he, not only for this year but just for his career, at Oklahoma. And then there's a couple of other guys, Nick Evers, who's a true freshman, 4-star guy that they got this year. Kind of late in the recruiting cycle. He's got the measurables. He's probably along with Davis Bevel, and then certainly Jackson Arnold coming in next year, will be the guys. The new guys. Obviously, he played a little bit in the spring. You can tell he's a guy that had a lot of inexperience. And then Micah Bowens is a guy that transferred in from Penn State last year. Wouldn't it all, if Oklahoma feels comfortable with their depth, have heard some rumors perhaps of him possibly moving to the wide receiver position with his speed and elusiveness. So if Oklahoma feels comfortable with those other 4 guys, and they've got a couple of other walk-ons as well, that'll be part of that room. But I think overall, as an Oklahoma fan, you've got to feel a little bit more comfortable with what you have now versus what you had kind of going into that spring game here.
Yeah, Nick Evers is going to be a guy that's going to be interesting to see and chart his development because he was a top 10 quarterback nationally coming out of high school. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I remember his commitment to Florida initially, but top 200 player, 172 in the composite, and the top 30 player in the state of Texas. So a lot of potential there. Micah Bowens, yeah, more of a dual threat guy. Of course, the speed factor, top 420 player coming out of high school.